Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed, we do. We've got Zed Jelani on. He's talking about the latest with Andrew Yang's campaign for mayor of New York. We've got Ken Klivenstein on. He's got a report on the way that Amazon drivers are forced to relieve themselves to not lose their jobs. And in fact, we're going to start with the big battle for unionization down in Alabama with Amazon.
Yeah, no, this battle is really heating up. Today is actually the last day of voting there, one of the reasons we wanted to cover it. But the other is that Amazon is mounting a full court press against this unionization drive in an extraordinary move for that company. So let's put these up there on the screen. They sent a series of tweets, which was against both progressive lawmakers and other critics of the website, which was on Twitter over the weekend, saying, you don't really believe the peeing in bottles thing, do you? They got into a very bizarre Twitter fight with Senator Elizabeth Warren. Just to give you a flavor of the tweets, Dave Clark, who's one of the highest level executives there in charge of the retail division, is going after Bernie Sanders, saying, all we want to know is why the senator is one of the most powerful polls in Vermont for 30 years, and their minimum wage is still only $11.75, while Amazon's minimum wage is $15 per hour, and you get great health care from day one. The senator should save his finger-wagging lecture until he actually delivers in his own backyard. This was, paired with this one, broadside against Elizabeth Warren, extraordinary and revealing. One of the most powerful politicians in the United States, questionable, just said that she is going to break up an American company so they can't criticize her anymore. I've never seen anything like this from Amazon, really Krystal. Something. It's absolutely extraordinary. And we are learning now, let's put this up there on the screen, that Jeff Bezos himself is apparently very upset that he has not been, that he's apparently very upset because he was pissed that Amazon was not pushing back hard enough on some of its public critics. And so he personally greenlit this all-out offensive against this in midst of the unionization drive. There is a lot going on there, but I think it tells you a lot that Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, is the person who greenlit this right here.
Right. So actually the first tweet pushback from Amazon that I was aware of came after Marianne Williamson. And then there were ones with Mark Pocan. There were ones going back and forth with Bernie, with Elizabeth Warren, with Ro Khanna. And by the way, on a substantive level, it is worth pointing out, as Congressman Ro Khanna did, that the only reason Amazon raised their wages to $15 an hour was because of Ro and Bernie and the Stop Bezos Act and the fact that they were afraid that they were going to be forced to do this in a bipartisan way because Republicans don't like Amazon either. And so they bent. So the fact that they have $15 an hour is actually because of Bernie Sanders, by the way, on your stupid, he doesn't get anything done point. But yeah, this was crazy to watch. And so everyone was wondering, what the hell is going on with it? Yeah. Did the social media manager just go rogue and lose their mind? No. What's going on within the executives? Top executives are weighing in. And now we learn this came straight from the top. And it is extraordinarily revealing. First of all, how incredibly thin-skinned they are. Yes. I mean, this company is so incredibly powerful. Jeff Bezos himself is so incredibly wealthy, the wealthiest man on the planet, made billions and billions of dollars during COVID while everyone else was struggling and suffering, gave his workers, we covered here, there was analysis of the major companies in this country and the way that they either kept profits for themselves and their top shareholders or were able to increase pay and increase benefits for their workers. Amazon was dreadful on that count. Workers didn't have the proper safety protocols during COVID. That's why they're the subject of a lawsuit in New York State. They fired Chris Smalls because they were so thin-skinned about him organizing to try to get just basic safety protocols, let alone any sort of additional hazard pay for coming in day after day and really keeping this entire economy running while we were facing lockdowns. So this one union fight down in Alabama clearly has them rattled.
Yeah, it really does. There's the one way of looking at it too, and this is something I was speaking about with Alec McGillis. He just wrote a book on Amazon, which is that this is their moment. They have currently, people need to remember this, maybe not outside of this show, but people really love Amazon. They have they have a relationship with 83% of American households. They have more people who have Amazon Prime memberships in America than put up Christmas trees. Amazon is now as American as apple pie. Their theory of the case is we are extraordinarily popular, people rely on us more than ever, and more importantly, not only do we have popular support, Jay Carney, Joe Biden's former spokesperson, is vice president of global public policy at Amazon. They own and have employed many former people in the Biden administration, and many former Obama people work for them in a lobbying capacity. Same thing on the Republican side. Their theory is, we have built this juggernaut. We own so many people in D.C. Go ahead. We're going to pick a fight with you. And I think their betting is, number one, that this is going to fail. And number two, that they're not going to face that much pushback. And I don't know if they're wrong or not. I mean, obviously, it's been a PR disaster, like the PR, like in terms of the press and the D.C. press corps in particular, not anybody at the Washington Post, waking up and criticizing this. But if the vote fails and they are very strategically only going after Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, they very well could emerge from this stronger. I hate to say it, but they look at this as having built up so much political power and cachet in D.C. and popular support amongst the population that they can just do whatever they want.
So, yes and no.
Yeah.
On the one hand, look, Amazon has definitely sort of infiltrated all of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
They make it so easy, so simple, especially during lockdowns. People created new habits. They drive the economy. They drive the labor market. They have extraordinary power and, of course, are also extraordinarily well-connected. We covered the amount of lobbying dollars that they spend here.
Number two in the whole country.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you add into that Bezos owning the Washington Post, and you add into that the high-level connections that you were talking about. They have just unbelievable power here and around the world. On the other hand, as we've covered here, the reason they're so sensitive about this union fight is it has already started a bit of a domino effect. More than 1,000 workers have reached out, Amazon workers have reached out across the country to unions to say, hey, what about organizing my workplace? So it's one thing going toe-to-toe with this one group, this one warehouse down in Alabama, in a town where there's very little other job prospects, with people who really need these jobs, don't have a lot of other options, again, just because the local economy is so screwed over. But the dam is already sort of starting to break. One of these efforts is going to succeed. Mm-hmm. And they're worried that you're going to have then warehouse after warehouse organizing. Is that going to be the end of the world for them? No, of course not. These workers could be organized, they could have decent working conditions, and Amazon would still be a global behemoth, and Jeff Bezos would still be the richest man on the planet, which is part of what makes this all so mind-boggling. Like, you can't spend a little bit extra money to make conditions like reasonable and livable for your workers. And on the PR front, the reason this has been such a disaster is because when they were tweeting back at people like, to Mark Pocan, you don't really believe the peeing in bottles thing. Of course that
it was like, it's true.
Thousands of viral images and articles about, hey, here's the proof. Here is the literal pee bottle. Mm-hmm. Bernie Sanders was down, of course, on Friday with Killer Mike and Danny Glover, with these workers, rallying them, talking to them, learning about their concerns. He put out a little bit of a video of what he saw down there. Let's take a look at that.
The reason that Amazon is putting so much energy to try to defeat you is they know that if you succeed here, it will spread all over this country. And I just had a few minutes to chat with some of you about the heat.
It's too hot. It's too hot.
I get messages on my computer saying, do not touch the fan, do not turn the fan on.
We do have air. They're just not using it.
The fact that when you get a 30-minute break, it takes you 10 minutes to get to the break station and 10 minutes back.
They explained to me that working in this facility is like a 10-hour workout.
The way that we work is meant to mentally break you down.
A man who's worth $150 billion who will not provide air conditioning, who penalizes people for being a minute late.
If you're 1 minute late, it takes a whole hour of unpaid time.
And I guess what I find really inspiring, Saagar, is yes, of course, Amazon has all the cards. They got all the power, they got all the money, they got all the leverage, they got everything. But these workers down in Alabama were able to get under Jeff Bezos' skin.
Oh, yes.
They were able to rattle him. And to me, that is an extraordinary and also an inspiring thing, because I can't tell you the amount of pressure that each one of these workers is under in terms of worrying about their job, worrying about, okay, if we unionize, are they just going to go ahead and close this plant? What's going to happen next? What's it going to look like? It took a lot of courage for them to even consider making this move, and to me, that is incredibly inspiring.
You're right. It's an extraordinary thing to even consider it, and no matter what happens within the vote, they can't put this back into the box. I do just worry that they've accumulated so much power, so much cachet, and more that they can get away with this. When people show you who they really are, you should believe them. And they've shown us who they are. They're willing to outright lie. They're mounting an online campaign, which is nasty, which is not, factually driven. They are so content. They truly feel like nobody can touch them. Yeah. I would love nothing more than to see a glove laid, but I'm, realistic about how this town works. So I'm just trying to, I understand where they're coming from. And the people who are observers and skeptical of Amazon's power are looking and seeing this and say they truly feel like they are so untouchable. But the good thing about America is that, these people can actually take a step. They truly, at no other cost, they at least got under his skin.
Yeah.
And they revealed these people to see who they were. Next time they tell you about, they're all into progressive values and equity and all that, look at this.
Putting Black
Look
Lives
who they
Matter
really
on
are.
their website. This is a majority black facility. They don't care. Letting them.
Right.
There was one guy who was talking about that an elderly woman had a heart attack behind him while the heat was so high and they're under so much stress there. It's disgusting. Just on a logistical matter, today's the last day of voting, as you said, mail-in voting. Every ballot has to be returned by today. It'll take a little while to count the ballots just because the process is a little bit lengthy, but of course we'll keep you updated here.
That's right.
And we're going to tell you what's on our radars. That's next.